My fellow Ambalanders, dear soldiers of the Ambazonian Revolution, I send you patriotic greetings to all our soldiers of the revolution on ground zero, all those detained in our name, especially to Comrade Seseko Ayok-Tabe, who is under assault. I want to assure you and everyone in jail that we don't leave our own behind, and that despite our differences, I want to send you the solemn promise of the Ambazonian people that as an Ambazonian, we will fight for you and every other detainee, and we will make sure we fight for a free homeland, so that the day you people are free, you get into a free homeland. The Ambazonian people will remain committed to this revolution, and we're thankful to all of you who have lost their liberty in the name of the homeland. I will call on all of our citizens to join me in observing a minute of silence on behalf of all those who've laid their lives so that Ambazonia shall yet be free. May the souls of the departed rest in perfect peace. And to the brave ones who are still fighting on GZ, we thank you all for your commitment and continuous sacrifices. And despite our shortcomings in ensuring that you are provided with what is needed to defend the homeland and the independence of our country, we want to promise you that we remain committed as a people. Jointly, together, we shall work harder to provide to each and every one of you with what is required to defend yourselves, to defend our community, and to protect our territorial integrity. My fellow citizens, I announced that I will come here today with a couple of announcements, and I will make a couple of clarifications on issues of policy. We have observed in the past months that the international community has continuously raised the issue of dialogue and negotiations. The United States Under Secretary of State has openly declared that both parties to the conflict must enter into unconditional dialogue. We have a long history, a long experience dealing with Cameroon, both at the domestic and international level. At the domestic level, we have observed that on issues of mutual agreement or disagreement, Cameroon has been unwilling or incapable of following up with implementation of any agreed terms. Where they have been pressured, like the creation of the University of Boya and the GCE board, they have gone through the back door to usurp control of these institutions, because the political agenda of Cameroon remains total occupation, premised on a skewed idea that Cameroon is one and indivisible. The absence of recognition of Ambazonia as a people with the right to external self-determination has engineered the lack of willingness on the part of the political system of Cameroon to adhere to any agreement. These experiences are numerous, and we can cite them. And that is why we've worked so hard, extremely hard with our blood, to move our struggle from the domestic realm, where Cameroon had all the possibilities alone without any overseer, to use its domestic laws to decide on the fate of a people and a state that has been independent. We have moved successfully the case from the domestic realm of Cameroon to the international system, where we believe we can have some fairness in terms of adjudication and oversight. We also have a long experience internationally, that after the plebiscite, when the United Nations called for a post-plebiscite conference to ensure that both parties, Cameroon and Ambazonia, to be overseen by the United Kingdom, France, and the United Nations, get into deciding on how the federal system was to be constructed. Cameroon, again, on the 1st of September 1961, transformed its own domestic law into La Constitution Fédérale and imposed an archaic federalism on us with full powers of administration, politics, and legislation in the hands of the Parliament of Cameroon. They went ahead to dismantle our own political system to ensure there was no fight back. They destroyed our police forces to ensure we didn't have any possibility of fighting back. We've also had experiences with Cameroon where, at both the international and domestic level, like when late Dr. Ngubenya filed the case in Banjul, that Cameroon recruited Ambazonians to file a counter-suit on their behalf. So they have always used our own people to bat for them when it is impossible to use persons who are within the regime, like they are using Dion Goute and others. They have turned to enablers, people who want Ambazonia to remain a colony under Cameroon. They've recruited them to do their bidding, to water down our desire for a free homeland, and to project that sense of what Nagy referred to as feeling of being Cameroonian. What everyone must understand, that when you live under an oppressive system for such a long time, there is what they call norm diffusion, where all your own systems are dismantled and you are asked forcefully to worship the paraphernalias, to worship the other system. You have no other choice. We do not feel Cameroonian. We are Ambazonians, and we've always been Ambazonians. Not because we didn't rise up to challenge the notion of Cameroonese being imposed on us, that should make us Cameroonians. These experiences makes it extremely very difficult to trust on the political regime of Cameroon to enter into any form of discussions. Discussions are not only premised on the substantive issues that are at bar, because treaties are regulated by conventions, and there is an important aspect, there is an important premise of this convention, which is good faith. Because you cannot oblige a state to implement the outcome of any negotiations. So treaties are respected based on good faith, because there is the concept of reciprocity, that if you fail in respecting treaties, the other parties might default. Or there is the premise of being declared a pariah state when you fail to live up to your obligations under international law. Cameroon lacks the issue of good faith. Cameroon does not even care if it's declared a pariah state, as long as it can hold claim to Ambazonia, as long as it can continue with impunity to brutalize our people, to exact economic benefit through the impunity based on the occupational policies. After examining all of these things, and we've come to the conclusion that Ambazonia will officially, that's the first news I want to give you, after discussions with international partners, after looking at our history of being entangled with a country that lacks good faith, either in self-executing agreed upon premises or being able to be forced to implement outcomes of negotiations, we think Ambazonia will officially demand arbitration. We will officially demand arbitration. And in the past days, I have sent a draft resolution to the National Council of the Governing Council of Ambazonia to be debated and adopted. I have discussed with international partners, and after the resolution is adopted tonight, my office or the office of the Vice President or that of the Secretary of State or that of the International Secretary for Recognition and Peace will officially demand a country as a guarantor to become an arbitrator. Arbitration is extremely important on issues that involve legality, because the Ambazonian struggle for independence is premised on law. And so we think arbitration is quite important to oversee the process of any dialogue or any negotiation and to ensure that the outcome is implemented. And we think it is not time to enter into any premature discussion with Cameroon based on our experiences. We also think it is not time to enter into any premature discussion with a state that is continuously deploying its armada within our homeland. It's exacting the price on our people in terms of blood and treasure. We think Ambazonia needs the support of the international system to be able to strengthen its capability and capacity at any form of discussion, because without this kind of capacity, we will be replaying the kind of Fumban discussion that has virtually failed and has led us into this state of war that is costing the lives of our people. In the coming days, I will be having my second discussion with a particular country to formally ask them to come in as an arbitrator. Cameroon has the right, as an independent country, to also ask for an arbitrator, and we will look at these things, and the Ambazonian people will make a decision on whether to get into that form of discussion with the arbitrator that Cameroon must have assigned. We understand these things critically. The second point which I want to make to the Ambazonian people is no political leader will enter into any discussion with Cameroon. Not my office. I will not sit with officials of Cameroon to have any discussion, not the Vice President of the Governing Council of Ambazonia or the Secretary of State. Political leaders don't enter into negotiations. The Ambazonian Governing Council has been looking at the issues of negotiations and have come to the conclusion that we need experts. We need experts that are knowledgeable on the issues that are dealt with during such very complicated issues of negotiation. And so political leaders must abstain and withdraw from any processes. Any leader that has been engaged in any actions with officials, either second parties or third parties associated with Cameroon, must immediately cease those contacts, because that is a very dangerous premise, to deal with. We have experts because on issues of negotiation, there are issues of international borders that are dealt with. We have a land border that is clearly demarcated based on international treaties. We lack an international maritime border, so we will need experts on maritime law and issues of demarcation of international maritime borders. We have shortlisted some experts within the Ambazonian struggle who are committed revolutionaries and are also committed to the independence and the protection of the independence of Ambazonia. We haven't made any decision yet on these persons, but I would try to explain a couple of issues associated with negotiations and how you can make these informed choices on the kinds of experts that are needed. Cameroon has been committing crimes within Ambazonia, crimes that have universal jurisdiction and that fall under the Rome Statutes or the International Criminal Court. And so on issues of any negotiations with Cameroon, we will need an international criminal lawyer experienced enough to be able to look at the crimes that Cameroon has committed, because accountability is very important for post-independence stability and peace and mutual respect. And so we are looking at somebody like Barrister Charles Taku, who works at the International Criminal Court, well experienced. He's one of the founding fathers of our revolution. He's one of the greatest conscious individual about our struggle. He's written a lot of academic pieces. He's spoken a lot about our struggle. You can believe in his credentials as an international criminal lawyer. You can believe in his dedication to the cause of our independence. So those are the kinds of persons that we'll be looking at the beginning to begin the exploratory phase with a guarantor, with an what I call an adjudicator on the issues of independence. Issues of independence also concerns issues. There are a lot of complex international law issues, because everything will be based on a treaty with Cameroon, and that will mean that you need an expert who understands, the international treaty system, both international human rights law, international humanitarian law, and other aspects of international law. We have one of our renowned professors who is also a founding father, Professor Carson Anyangwe, is somebody we should be looking at as an expert, someone with a deep conviction for our independence, who has an experience on the history of the evolution of the occupation of our homeland, the mistakes that were made during the different phases of transition from trusteeship into occupation. He's extremely very knowledgeable on the issues and very committed to our homeland. So those are the kinds of persons that will begin the exploration of any form of discussion, the issues that will be on the table. You also have somebody like Dr. Atemkeng Dennis. Most of these persons, some of them I don't agree with them. I don't agree with them. We don't work in the same team. But those are persons that you can respect their position as far as our independence is concerned. You cannot question their expertise knowledge on the issues at bar. Dr. Atemkeng is a revolutionary diplomat. He works at the African Union. He was one of the first persons that took, I think, my first letter to the Security Council of the African Union. He is very committed. We work together on several issues, and I can trust in his judgment. He's written a lot in the past days about the fact that we are not ready for any discussion. And I think anybody who knows him, you can disagree with his politics, you can disagree with his allegiances, but you can believe in his conviction. You also have like Barrister C. Ambe of Morris. She's a great person, and in all of these discussions, we need ladies. We need powerful Ambazonian ladies who are going to discuss on our behalf and protect the interests of the 51% of our population that are women, always been disenfranchised. So Barrister C. Ambe is a dedicated Mauritian. We all know her. We know her fiercely on these issues. She is a lawyer, and those are the kinds of person that will be doing the exploratory phases of any discussion. And the kind of experts you line up will send a strong message to Cameroon, whether you know the issues that you want to talk about or you're just simply doing experimentation. And I think we must bring forth our best. We need strong people who are learned on the issues of the international economy, people who are expert on post-conflict justice systems. If Dr. Akwanga was not a political leader, he's someone who has expertise on the issues of South Sudan and could have been sitting there, but he's a political leader. You have Asonganyi Asong Ven, who is also well seasoned. He's an AGC, one of the brightest we've got in the revolution. And those are the kind of experts who has a seasoned knowledge on how the Eritreans did their negotiation. He can tell you page by page on some of the obstacles that they face. He has an expertise knowledge on how different revolutions ended, whether ended by collapse, by defeat, outright defeat, or ended through negotiated settlement. So these are knowledgeable persons who have an inside knowledge on the issues that concerns international negotiations of nations and states. So it is very critical. Let me for anyone who is just coming into this issue. First, we must be conscious of a couple of issues that we will set the agenda when the time comes. Yeah, issues of compensation for 57 years of thuggery and murder, issues of mutual interest. Joint assets. We have we hold claim to Cameroon embassies across the globe. Some of these embassies were acquired when the so-called defunct federal system was put in place, and they have occupied it, and their staff has been always 90%. These are joint assets, and we hold claim to these assets. Cameroon has committed a lot of crimes in our homeland, and so these are issues that we will need to talk about. We will need to negotiate the issues of maritime borders with Nigeria and with Cameroon itself, and those are critical issues that must ensure post-independence political stability, to ensure that there is governance based on the consent of the people, and that economic ideas and ideals can take hold without any disruption from across the border. And so it is very critical that we do this homework really well. We political leaders don't get into any form of discussions with an aggressive occupier, especially in times of war. And so all the leaders, my desk, I will be focused on the liberation, the defense of the homeland, and to ensure that we get out the last vestiges of Cameroon's presence within our territory, to ensure that we have absolute control both in its dynamic and its very, very static form. My fellow citizens, I will make a couple of comments before I talk about the contender force. I want to talk a bit. It's an issue that I've always avoided, but I think I need to make a very strong comment about it. It's the issue of Mr. Seseko Ayuk Tabe. Last time I wrote a piece, and I realized somebody said I didn't like Ayuk before. I don't need to like Ayuk. That's the first thing. I'm a political leader, and I don't need to like anybody. And so, but in all honesty, that's a gentleman. We disagree fundamentally. I think his so-called government should have been dissolved, and I still hold strongly that it should be dissolved to bring peace in our revolution. That should have been the sensible thing for him to do. I want to send a strong message to the wife to know that we will be fighting for the husband. He's an Ambazonian. He's a political leader, and the wife should know that we will fight for him like any other Ambazonian. Look, I have a lot to say about the wranglings going on, but as I said, I will not make any comments on someone who is in jail. It will not happen. I had differences with Comrade Akwanga while he was in jail, but I maintained utter silence until he was out. Now, let me give you, for some of you who are in the United States, we observed a couple of months ago a United States soldier moved into an area controlled by the Taliban. That was deliberate. He did it deliberately. I don't have full details of the reasons why he did that, but I know the United States intelligence knew that he strayed deliberately into the zone of the Taliban, and he was captured and held hostage. The United States didn't charge him with treason. They didn't charge him with desertion. They didn't. They worked so hard. To ensure that he was free. And the moment he stepped his feet onto the soil of the United States, he was arrested and charged with desertion and endangering the lives of other soldiers. That is the most sensible thing to do. That's the most sensible thing to do. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot attack the integrity of a prisoner. You can't. We fought for Agwabala. We fought for Fontaine. We knew they stood for federalism. If La République takes Sako, I will fight for Sako. They take Mr. Anu, I will fight for him. I will bury every differences and make sure I fight for them until they are released. We can then settle the differences thereafter. Look, independence is abstract. The notion of Ambazonia is abstract. It is the container within which the real things we fight for can take root. Personal freedom, equal opportunity, respect for one another. So if you can't fight for a fellow comrade who is detained in the maximum security prison of the opponent, and you go around throwing tantrums on allegations, this is catastrophic. It is extremely catastrophic. I would stop at that. But I want to assure every Ambazonian that I still disagree and hold very strongly that the formation of a government was premature. It has endangered the lives of our people. It has instilled chaos in our revolution. Should be set aside. It should be set aside because it is flawed. But when it concerns Seseko Ayuk Tabe, we will fight for Seseko Ayuk Tabe. You can keep your president. We will keep Seseko Ayuk Tabe. You can do what you want to do with the notion of being a president. But you cannot attack the integrity of a high-profile political prisoner. You can't. We have AGCs and ADF prisoners in Kondengi. We sometimes disagree. But you must know they are under duress. Under severe duress. Because even us out here fighting in exile, the pressure is high. You can look at me. You compare me just 2 years back. You will know that it's having a toll. If not of the internal conviction, if not of the desire to make sure every blood spilled wasn't spilled in vain, you will crack. This is a job without pay. This is a job that robs you of any sleep. And the least you can offer is cordiality. Let me also send a warning to all those who embraced blackmail before because it was against A or B. I warn you, when they finish to consume the enemy, they will tend to devour their own children. We should reject blackmail. You should wholeheartedly reject blackmail. If you cannot win on the issues, if you cannot win based on conviction and persuasion, you don't have a spot. You cannot win on the dead body of your own comrade. You don't merit to fight La République. If you can't defend yours, you can't fight the enemy. So all of us must take this as a good lesson in this revolution. Because from the beginning, I will not condone outright blackmail. Fellow soldiers of our revolution is on course. And I want to salute each and every one of you. This is decision time. We are at a critical juncture in our revolution. It's not everything I can say over the internet. We are at a critical juncture of our revolution. And I want to remind you, Ambazonians, solemnly of the journey we have made together. I want you to look back. You will find the street littered with the dead bodies of our fallen heroes. Villages razed to the ground. Livelihoods destroyed. Joy replaced with pain. Pessimism takes over hope. You must look back on the journey we have made, and you will conclude like any sane person. It has been a rough ride for some. It has been very difficult for our people, for our women, for our children, for our mothers, for our fathers. Revolution is not a walk in the park. It's painful for families. It's very painful for families. On a daily basis. And so, the way we conduct ourselves matters. You can be a source of inspiration and hope, or a source of fear and hopelessness. You don't have a choice, Ambazonians. We can't go back. You can't raise the dead. You can't just simply ask Cameroon to rebuild the burned down villages. A lot has happened. Our people have suffered. But you must also take pride in the determination of those who continue to fight. On the rubbles of destroyed cities, on the carcasses of the dead, they've held their dim guns like true warriors, out from the bushes, in obscurity. They've stood like valiant soldiers to defend an ideal so distant, but so close to our hearts. Our brave fighters have laid their lives. They've given their blood. They've been separated from families. They've lost limbs. They've lost arms. They've lost eyes. They have fought in trenches, untrained, unschooled, without hope sometimes, for an ideal so distant but so close to our heart. The ideal of freedom is a universal currency. It cuts across cultures. It cuts across oceans. It cuts across races. It is a universal currency. The urge, the desire to be free is something that even the sick, even the crippled, the lame desire, hope for, and hope to God Almighty. They can have the will and determination to rise up on the same spot that their forebears died, to fight for it, to get it, to earn it, and to pass it to the next generation. If you don't know why they continue to bleed, if you don't know why they continue to sacrifice on a daily basis, if you don't know why they sit in jail and still defy the occupier, I want to let you know it is the ideal of freedom that beckons on each and every one of us, black, white, rich, poor, the urge to rise above themselves, to be free and offer it to the next generation. Our boys have bled. Our boys have died from simple wounds that could have been treated. Our boys have been shot because they ran short of the means of defending themselves. My people, we are there. No generation in history, from the ashes of oppression, colonized for more than 150 years by different colonial powers, battered, shattered, exploited, denigrated, have risen from the ashes of that oppression in 3 years to rewrite their own history on their own terms and put on the footnote of their own history a story that is indelible. No generation has done it better than the Ambazonian people. If you've never been proud to be an Ambazonian, get your flag and raise it and shout at the top of your voice from the Eiffel Tower to the Statue of Liberty that you are an Ambazonian and you're proud to be one, because of the daredevil sacrifices of those who fight in the trenches for you, those who die in the trenches for you, those who die in the trenches for an ideal so far away but so close to heart, the ideal of freedom, a universal currency that cuts across cultures, race, and time zones. My fellow people, if these men give their life, these women give their life, their blood, just to be free, we must give them our support. At this time in our life as a people, when the world has come to recognize us as a people and believe in our determination and declare that Cameroon cannot defeat us, I want all of us, Whether you agree with me, you like me or not, at least we all agree on the principle of that universal currency, that ideal of freedom. At this time when Cameroon has been told you cannot defeat these people, I call upon all of you to strengthen the hand of our soldiers, the contender forces. You asked for ungovernability, they gave it to you. You asked them to increase the cost of the occupation, they gave it to you. You asked them to instill and make sure they put blockade, lockdown, they did it to you. They are asking you in their numbers to give them the tools for them to defend the homeland and defend the freedom for which you so much desire. So far away but so close to heart. This is the contender generation, the never again generation, the ones that have bled in the trenches, the ones that have fought in Kwakwa, the ones that have fought in Teke, the ones that have fought in Batibo, bled in Kumbo, bled in Oko, fought in Manyo, fought in Dian, fought everywhere, fought in the high street, fought on the streets of London, in Berlin, in Washington, in Oslo, across the globe, to be able to project the notion of Ambazonianness. This is the time to write the final chapter. You asked for collaboration of the forces. We have brought them together. I call on all the forces. Everyone collaborate to defend the homeland. Collaborate to kick Cameroon out. We have built the contender forces. Those are the forces that would make sure they can dislodge Cameroon at the peripheries. The contender force will become the assault and liberation force that can make sure it dismantles the last barracks of Cameroon within the homeland. My people, the time has come for you to arm them, so that when the diplomats talk, when the experts talk, they talk from a position of strength. If we do not reach contenderhood on the ground, there will be no basis for discussion, because we will be too weak to bargain. It doesn't take much. It takes commitment, and I know you are. Dedication, you have. Endurance, you've shown it. God bless Ambazonia. Good night.